Hello, and welcome to the annual meeting of stockholders of Pacific Biosciences of California, Inc. Please note that today's meeting is being recorded. There will be a question and answer session after today's meeting is adjourned. You can submit questions or comments at any time by clicking on the Q&A icon. It is now my pleasure to turn today's meeting over to Christian Henry, the President and Chief Executive Officer of PacBio. Christian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning all, and welcome to PacBio's 2025 Virtual Annual Meeting of Stockholders. I am Christian Henry, President and Chief Executive Officer of PacBio and a member of the company's Board of Directors. The agenda for today's meeting consists of formally addressing the proposals described in our proxy statement. Following the adjournment of today's meeting, the conference line will remain open, and you may direct questions about the company's business to the company's investor relations team. Before proceeding further, let me introduce the other directors who are in attendance virtually. John Milligan, Chairman of the Board. Randy Livingston, Marshall Moore, Kathy Ordonez, Lucy Shapiro, and Christopher Smith. Also in attendance virtually are Jim Gibson, our Chief Financial Officer, Natalie Welch, our Chief People Officer, Michelle Farmer, our Chief Accounting Officer, Todd Friedman, our Head of Investor Relations, Andrew Hoffman of Wilson Sonsini, Goodrich & Rosati, our Legal Counsel, Yogi Ransing of Ernst Young, our Independent Registered Public Accounting Firm, and Ken Frank, our Inspector of Elections. I will now turn the meeting over to Brett Atkins, who will conduct the formal part of this meeting. Brett?
Thanks, Christian. Good morning, everyone, and again, welcome to PacBio's 2025 annual meeting. The meeting is being held virtually in accordance with the company's bylaws and Delaware law. During the formal meeting, we will address the matters described in the proxy statement, which was first made available to all stockholders on or about April 23rd, 2025, and is available on the company's website and the SEC's website. I have proof by affidavit that notice of this meeting has been duly given and that the notice of annual meeting of stockholders, proxy statement, and proxy were mailed on or about April 23rd, 2025 to stockholders of record as of 5 p.m. Pacific time on April 10th, 2025, which is the record date for the meeting. The affidavit will be filed with the minutes of the meeting. Ken Frank is acting as our Inspector of Election for this meeting. The Inspector of Election has signed an oath of office, which will be filed with the minutes of the meeting as well. And based on the information provided by the Inspector of Election, I can confirm we have present, virtually or by proxy, a sufficient number of shares to constitute a quorum. Having been duly constituted, we will now commence with the business of the meeting. If you have previously submitted your proxy, it is not necessary that you complete another proxy or vote. Those stockholders who have not submitted proxies or who wish to vote remotely or who want to change their vote, please follow the instructions provided online. After voting has completed on all matters on the agenda, we'll close the polls and announce the preliminary results of the voting at the end of the meeting. It is now 9:05 a.m. on June 4th, 2025. And the polls for each matter to be voted on at this meeting are now open. The first item of business is the election of the company's Class 3 directors. As indicated in the company's proxy statement, William Erickson, Kathy Ordonez, and Christopher Smith have been nominated by the Board of Directors to serve as the company's Class 3 directors with terms expiring in 2026. The Board of Directors recommends voting for each of these nominees. The second item of business is the ratification of the appointment of Ernst Young, LLP, to serve as the company's independent registered public accounting firm for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025. The Board of Directors recommends voting for the ratification of the appointment of Ernst Young. The third item of business is an advisory vote on the compensation of our named executive officers. Although this vote is non-binding, the Board of Directors will consider the outcome when making future compensation decisions for our executive officers. The Board of Directors recommends voting for the proposal for the approval of the compensation of our named executive officers. The fourth item of business is the approval of an amendment of our 2020 Equity Incentive Plan to increase the number of shares reserved under that plan by 23 million shares and to make certain other changes. Our board of directors believes this amendment is in the best interest of PacBio and its stockholders and will allow PacBio to continue achieving its goals of attracting, retaining, and motivating our employees, directors, and other service providers through grants of equity awards. The board of directors recommends voting for the amendment of our 2020 Equity Incentive Plan. If you are voting today, you must submit your votes online at this time in order for them to be counted by the Inspector of Election. The Inspector of Election will not accept votes or any change or revocation submitted after the closing of the polls. We will now pause briefly to enable those who are voting virtually to finish voting. Wait here for just a minute. Okay, it is now 9:07 a.m., June 4th, 2025, and the polls for each matter to be voted on at this time are now closed. The proxies and votes will be tabulated by the Inspector of Election. With regard to Proposal 1, the election of directors, William Erickson, Kathy Ordonez, and Christopher Smith have been elected to the Board of Directors to serve as Class 3 directors. With regard to Proposal 2, the ratification of Ernst Young LLP to serve as the company's independent registered public accounting firm has been approved. With regard to Proposal 3, the advisory approval of compensation of the company's named executive officers has been approved. With regard to Proposal 4, the amendment to the company's 2020 Equity Incentive Plan has been approved. These are the preliminary results of voting. Final count may vary following the final examination of the proxies and ballots. The final results of voting will be set forth in the report of the Inspector of Election and will also be reflected in a current report on a Form 8-K to be filed with the SEC. I will now turn the meeting back to Christian.
Thank you, Brett. This concludes the formal business of the annual meeting of stockholders. The meeting is now adjourned. At this time, we would like to entertain questions or comments from our stockholders. If you would like to submit a question, please do so by clicking on the Q&A icon. We will now pause for a moment to review any questions that are submitted. I have been informed that there are no questions in the queue. So I would like to thank all of you for attending today's meeting and for the interest you have shown in PacBio. We very much appreciate your attendance and, as always, thank you for your support.
This concludes the meeting. You may now disconnect.